Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Keyfrogs podcast, live from your mom's house.
Oh, damn, got him. Get down, everybody. He's shooting fire.
No,
Shit.
welcome to the Keyfrogs podcast, our first episode that we're gonna upload. We did do another one, but that one had some technical issues, so this is the first real episode. And we are here today with me. I'm Torvalpo, and do any of you want to introduce yourself?
Patrick.
No,
Patrick.
no, you're not.
All right.
Try again.
Try again. Try it again.
Torvald.
No. That's me. That's me.
No,
The last guy.
My name is Carl.
And what's your gamer tag?
BAQ, and I don't know how to pronounce it.
Backno. The gamer
And a
tag
lot
that
of people
nobody
also don't know.
could pronounce at the Keyforge celebration.
Yeah, exactly.
And you made it the whole way almost. Okay.
And also, my name is Patrick, or my online username is PAQ or PAC.
And today, as I mentioned before, our topic is the store championship that was recently hosted at our friendly local game store, which I work as. We played two formats, which I work at. We played Archon and we played Sealed. Archon was on Saturday and Sealed was on Sunday. And there were a bit
Sealed
more
United,
people
right?
for Sealed. Yeah, it was Unified Sealed. It was the it was
Unified,
Alliance Sealed pretty much. Everybody got 3 decks. I think. We'll start out by just talking about our individual experiences of the store champs.
Also, we are a team called Keyfrogs, and we have streamed a lot of games earlier when we lived together. Actually, now we don't, so we sadly cannot stream physically anymore. But they're still on YouTube, and we consider ourselves a Keyforge team, whatever that means. And so hopefully we'll be together in future team events. That would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty epic.
If I'm allowed to correct, I personally consider myself a Keyforge team leader, but go on.
That's fair. The numero uno, the GOAT, so to speak.
That's him.
So, Patrick, let's start with you. How was your store championship events?
So if we'll start with Archon, I had considered before the event started. I was pretty unsure of what deck I was supposed to play. I had a pretty powerful Grim Minus deck that I've gotten, which has like Beanstalk and Double Haunted House, Ecto Charge, Brick Nasty, Final Refrain, just like a lot of these like just pure power cards that if they get to do the thing is possibly quite unfair. I decided on not going with that deck because the deck also is kind of inconsistent, and a lot of the time it will pop off and do something very powerful. But also the deck can just kind of feel dull and not do a lot. And if it doesn't draw its power cards, it can feel a lot more fair and as if it doesn't do anything. So I chose another deck, which is my World's Collide deck that is called Uther, which is a more consistent deck that has a lot of value creatures, as World's Collide often has. It has Logos and Star Alliance and this. So it's a lot about getting creatures on the board and using those creatures to gain Amber and an advantage, but also the actions are very important in the deck, like Graft, Stealth Mode, and Ladder Over Shift. Yeah, and also Ecto Charge was errata like 1 day before the store champion.
No, the night before the store championship. It was
the night before the store championship.
I think it was like 8 o'clock the night before they issued the Ecto errata in Danish time, and I went absolutely nutty on the timeline. Just
Yeah, you were very excited.
I was very excited, even though it fucked with my deck
Yeah.
choice because I was gonna play something else than what I ended up playing. But I've been a known Ecto hater on and off, and I kind of I was really happy that they did do that they did Rada.
Well, now that we're quickly on the topic, I just wanna mention that I'm also very much an Ecto hater, but I was very bummed because literally the day before I drew one of the
Oh
best
yeah.
Ecto punch decks I have seen.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
owned it and I played it on the Crucible, and then it got extra charged the next day. No, nerfed errated. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in. Half
Yeah,
bummed, half celebrating.
it had
Yeah.
like Forgotten Guardian, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in here somewhere, and all the good shit.
Okay, yeah, crazy. I'm glad I didn't get to play that, play against that. Anyway, yeah. So I went in with this more consistent deck, Uther. But the I went 0 and 2. No, I think I went
Yeah,
2 and 2,
and 2. You
which
scrubbed out, mate.
it was really fucking sad. And I also made some big misplays in at least the first game, and I think the second as well, but I'm not sure. I can't remember that quite as well. I was also the day before. I was sick and I threw up, and like the day of the Icon, Saturday, I think, or it was Saturday, right? The
Yeah,
Arkham
was Saturday.
games. Yeah. I had still like a bit of a headache and stomach ache, so like I really wasn't on the top, and I could feel like just the fatigue coming from concentrating. It came a lot earlier, actually, just through the end of the first game, where I had planned my next turn, then lateral shift I planned exactly that I should end up with 6 or more cards in my hand, because then I wouldn't draw any cards from my deck because I needed the cards in my discard pile, and I had 0 cards left in my deck. And then I lateral shift a card with a draw icon on it because I just forgot my own plan, which was insane. Anyway, it's not sure that I would win the game anyway. But I at least definitely did not win it with the choices I made. So that was very sad. And the other game was also like just a deck that I felt like, I don't know, my deck should have matchup in that game. I don't know what went wrong. I can't remember it exactly. But it was pretty embarrassing, and I'm kind of sad about it. But I know that I have to train with this deck a bit more, because it's still a deck that I don't 100% have under my skin. So yeah.
What up, Carl?
Do you remember what the deck in the second match was? Like, what kind of deck? What houses?
Yeah.
Where? What things?
Who played it?
It was a Geisler deck played by Eder, and
it's that deck. That's a pretty good deck.
Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah, it seemed kind of mid to me when I played against it. It just like had Grave Pixies, Winch of Death, not really any insane combo. Yeah, it was Unseen Geister, and I can't remember the third house.
No,
Can
but
you remember that?
she got third.
Jill third. Okay, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure about my evaluation today. It just seemed very chill when I played against it, but that chill decks can be good. And also Ida could just pilot it very well. I don't remember the game exactly. So yeah, I remember the first game a bit more.
The first game was also just like a masterclass in how not to play Keyforge at the end. Like your last turn was some of the most disastrous shit I've ever seen in my life. I was watching like right on the sidelines, and I was so like you playing lateral shift. You first play Graft. That's like the worst part of that turn. Is you play Graft and then you play a Bumpsy with a capture icon on your lateral shift. So you just give up 2 Amber that you would have gotten from your opponent.
Yeah, and I feel like I was so in control of the game up until then, and I feel like all my actions were like well thought out, and then suddenly my brain just stopped working, and I just play Bumpsy on a turn that I'm going to steal like 3 Amber for Graft. play Bumsy that will reduce one
No,
of my
you would
own
have
ambers.
you would have stolen 5, my guy. Your
Five
opponent had
amber, okay,
11
yeah.
amber.
I
You
don't
were
remember it, but like quite a lot. And then Bumsy just loses me 2 of those amber, and one of them goes back to my opponent because the Bumsy captured one as well. And it also had the draw icon, which was also bad for me. Like, it was so insanely bad. I was just, I don't know what happened. Also, when time is nearing, I often get very stressed and can't think clearly. So that might also be part of it, which is, I don't know. It's actually something that I think I might have to actively train, because when time comes, I very often in Keyfrogs tournaments know that I make misplays at those like last 4 minutes when I can see the time is about to run out. I will start to play quickly and I will start to make a lot of mistakes, and I hate that. It's really unenjoyable for me. Anyhow, okay. Next person want to go?
Carl,
My turn.
how did your Archon go?
So my icon. Okay. You're in for a ride. Okay, so I picked out my deck, which was a no-brainer. It's a Voltmaster deck, Canvas Master of Glaciers. It does everything except make amber, but it has one combo that makes a lot of amber. So you do nothing except stall the game until you get your combo, and then you just win. And that's the entire game plan. And I was down for it. I had set my alarm clock and everything ready to be there at 13 o'clock Danish time. And it started at 11.
So
Very bad.
And by the time I woke up and was like, yo guys, just double checking it's not like 2 o'clock or 15 or something. And you were like, it was at 11, and
we're
by
already going.
and you wrote that, yeah, like at 12. So I missed the Aachen. All in all, a pretty neutral score. At least I didn't go 0-2.
I mean, you did the same
is
as
true.
Patrick, pretty much. Like, if Patrick hadn't showed up, we would have had the same results. Almost.
But Carl, where might the viewer have seen the deck before?
What?
That you were going to play. The deck where you were going to play.
I have played it a lot on the Crucible.
And also, it was the infamous Vaultmaster deck that topped second in
Yeah, the Archon Open, a Keyfrogs celebration.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did that. I totally forgot.
I remember that. I got second place. Yeah. Do you want me to get the plaque?
That's fine. I just
humble brag.
just wanted to mention it.
Just wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah, so it's already done pretty great in a pretty big tournament. So I was kind of hype.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was also hoping to see it in action another time, like in an actual tournament setting, because I've played it against it like a lot privately afterwards, and also I watched your whole run at Keyfrogs Celebration after I lost in Worlds. I think I went 3-2 myself in Worlds.
Yeah, you
so
did.
I was like, I got like a 10th or 11th place. It's pretty good, but
Yeah, it's pretty good.
but I just watched Carl play Canvas, and I was like, shit, man, that's pretty good. That's pretty beautiful right there. So I was really hoping to see it in action, and then you just didn't show up. If I can tell the story from my point of view, I was TOing this tournament because nobody else stepped up, and I was like, well, okay, I'll fucking do it. And I work at the shop, so like I also had the keys to get in a little bit earlier, since we had to start some of the tournaments a little bit earlier. As I was setting up for the Archon, a sneaking suspicion started to creep in when Carl didn't show up or write. I was like, oh no, is he still sleeping? So I check, and I do this sometimes when we have something happening with Carl and he isn't answering. I check, when was he last online on Steam? And it was 3.5 hours ago from when we were there in the venue.
I was having a good power nap.
And I was like, oh no, that's not gonna be good. But he has like come back from worse than this. So I will I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. So I call him. He doesn't pick up. I call him again, still doesn't pick up. Okay, this is starting to look pretty bad. And and then I have to start the tournament. Like we wait. I have to start the tournament. And then Carl writes that message, and he sends a screenshot of a different Keyforge event that we're thinking of going to that starts at 13. And I'm like, brother.
I made sure to double check that it was 13, so I went
Yeah.
into whatever Keyforge chat was written in last, and I scrolled up until I found, oh, there's an event, starts at 13. Very good. I'm gonna set my alarm and go to bed. So I
Holy
tried
shit.
my best, and it was like shit o'clock in the middle of the night. Like you weren't awake to confirm my question.
No, it was like 5 o'clock. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I have to get up to TO the next day. It's oh my fucking god.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just explaining my situation. I couldn't ask anybody, so I looked at the poster and it was like 13, and I was like,
It's fair. It's fair.
The first time in Keyforge history that it has been bad for a player to have multiple events coming.
Yeah, exactly. Multiple events you can play in a shorter span of time. But my own Archon experience was pretty good. It was a bit tainted by the fact that I had to TO, because I am not a good multitasker. Doing two things at once, I'm not good at it. I try to do it, but it doesn't work out well. I picked the few days before the store championships. I thought, well, fuck it. I don't need to play my best deck at this event. I'll try some GR out to see how it works. So I picked a deck called Little Guy, Deacon Little Guy, which I got, which was my named deck, and I was going to play that until the Ecto errata the day before. Now, Deacon Little Guy is a very one-track deck. It does two things. It makes a very big Starlines board very easily, and then it has some disruption tools in Equidon. And then it has setup tools in Geistoid with Boo and Well of Memory and 2 Winds of Deaths and an Ecto charge. And the deck very consistently gets a free key. And without my free key button, I wasn't sure the the deck was going to do well at the store champs. So I kind of pussied out from that, and then I just played the deck I won nationals with, OA Meets the Cliff Sell It, which is a very good deck. Who would have thought?
That's a banger.
It is a banger. Banger alert, banger alert. And OA Meets the Cliff Sell It. I'll put the deck up on screen real quick here. It's this here. And that deck is an AOA deck. One of the few very, very good AOA decks. It just does what it needs to do. It steals, it denies.
Fucking everything, and it is weakened by nothing. Like, your opponent has nasty artifacts, don't worry, Neutron Shock. Your opponent has Amber, don't worry, Runny. Your opponent has creatures, don't worry, Neutron Shock.
Or unlike Gateway Akita does. The only thing that really kills this deck is Purge. Like, Purge or decks that are too fast for it. Or decks that can kind of get its toolbox out of order. So that was what I was a bit scared of when playing the deck against GR, because there's a fair bit of Purge in GR. But I bought it mainly because of the card Desania, which is very good into Grim Reminders. And it went very well for me. My first round was a bye, which was fine. I had to TO anyway. But the round after that, I won pretty handily my game. And then in round 3, I played the same opponent Patrick lost to, Ida. We were both 2-0, and I also beat her very handily. I made sure to keep my Desania in both games, because they both had Winds of Death. And in game 2, my opponent ended up not playing Winds of Death at all, because they knew I had Desania. And in game 3, Ida played Winds of Death, not noticing my Desania, I think. And I just punished her massively by gaining, I think it was like 11 Amber.
What the
Putting
fuck?
one card down, give me 11 Amber. and discard her entire archive, right? So it's just like Desania is insane into GR, and Desania is really interesting also because like if your opponent wins of deaths and Desania is in your discard pile, you still get Desania back to kill their archive because they can't take their archive up before you take their archive up.
That's
so
funny.
Desania is pretty foolproof unless your opponent has a way to like either put it away from your graveyard or remove it from your play area somehow, either scoop upping it or infernusing it. Those are like my only Forgotten Guardian, stuff like that. So Ida, for example, had a plow sword that I was really wary of, which is weird saying about a plow sword, but I made sure not to discard Desania, because if I did, then she would be able to plow sword Desania into the bottom of my deck, Winds of Death, and I wouldn't be able to answer the Winds of Death. So it was like a very weird game of chicken with Desania in both games I had before the top 4. But I think I played it pretty well. In the top 4, Ida won her win-in for the top 4, so she played me again as the bottom seed, and I beat her. She changed her strategy up a little bit, but I just kind of had her number at that point. Like I didn't feel like she could do anything to beat my deck. I kind of thought I'd figured the matchup out. She didn't even come. She came even less close this time. I think she only got 1 key this time in the matchup. So just kind of smacked her around and won there. But then in the finals, I played Christopher, a local Stasser, is his gamer tag, and he bought a GR deck, which, spoiler alert, ended up winning the whole event. He beat me with that. And I can make some different claims about that, but all in all, I think I actually have a pretty good matchup. I just think that I played worse than he did in the tournament here. My biggest misplay was, if y'all can see the deck, he has Winds of Death also in this deck with Haunting Witch and like a lot of ways to go absolutely brazy on the beat with that, to make a fuck ton of amber, double Haunting Witch. So I played my Desania one turn, not realizing he had 2 scoop ups. He did have 1 in the graveyard, so I thought it was safe, but then he scooped up Desania. It was the quickest play he made the whole match. It was like I played it, and then instantly when I passed the turn, he scooped it up. And I was so fucking mad at myself because I knew that was going to lose me the game. And we weren't playing best of 3 because this is the new Ghost Galaxy rules. So no best of 3, no second try, nothing. Just had to kind of, if you made a misplay, you had to live with it. And I made this misplay, and I made another one where I cracked my key to this a little bit too early, where he didn't have enough of a board. I was just scared of his Ember generation, but I think I should have thought about it more, because I think I could have stolen him down, even if he did generate enough Amber there. What really won him the game in the end was his Dark Heart of the Forest, where he played that, and then he was able to boo me 2 times as like a miasma to stop me from forging. Because I was able to get out of the first boo by drawing back up in my deck. My deck's pretty nifty at drawing a lot of cards in a Locust turn, so I was able to draw back up to empty my discard pile. Then he just had the second boo in hand, and I lost to that at the end. So it's a matchup where if I hadn't played the Desania, it hadn't gotten scooped up, I think I had the matchup there. But his deck is very tricky and very interesting. So
yeah, it really is.
I could have. There are a lot of ways I could have lost this. Did any of y'all want to comment on that?
Yeah, I remember I looked over your shoulder during that match, and I was really surprised because I didn't remember the deck having like 2 Maverick too much to protect in it.
Okay, you're Carl was still sleeping and dreaming at this point, apparently.
Oh. Okay.
I'm just
he's fucking.
Yeah, I saw the game on online on Twitch because I was feeling sick, but I still wanted to see finals. And I mean, both of these decks are just very, very interesting and unique decks. I've talked a lot about Amy's, but sadly in the podcast that were not recorded. But
Hmm.
this deck is also very, very interesting with a lot of cards that don't necessarily do anything when you play them, but side by side with some interesting mechanics and tools. Uh, for example, the Dark Heart of the Forest with double boo can be very, very strong, and also with an what is it called? The Island of Misfits toys,
Crazy fucking card.
uh,
Can't believe they
which
printed
is
that.
yeah, it's absolutely bonkers card. With the double scoop up to disrupt the opponent, get rid of the creatures permanently. Because I think this deck will not really often want to pick up its archive unless
Winds of Death has been played.
Winds of Death is played. And just because when I look at the deck, it really does not seem strong at first glance. But when at the time and the time I played against it, and the times I've just watched the game, the deck be played by Stessa, it has just felt very, very powerful, which is fascinating to me. That this deck that really does not look strong to me, but when I see it in action, feels very powerful. That's pretty cool to experience in Keyforge with a 76 SAS Grim Minus deck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think that's it.
also something I think about Grim Reminders is like they're underrated a lot of the good decks. Like
Mm,
the Grim Reminders rating system is so weird. SAS is so weird, and SAS has been so weird for a lot of the newer expansions. And it does
mm,
rate accurately some of the time, but like some of the decks that are 90 assassin Grim Reminders just feel very average. Like they are
mm,
good. They're better than your average Coda deck by a lot. Like they'll beat every single average Coda deck. But a 90 SAS Grim Reminder deck, a lot of the time, I don't feel like it's gonna beat a like an 85 SAS Coda deck if the Coda deck is like an actual competent Coda deck.
mm.
So I feel
I
like the
completely agree.
SAS.
Honestly, like 4 of my 6 highest SAS rated decks are Grim Reminders, and that they're definitely good. They're definitely powerful, but um, some of them are just rated too high.
Yeah.
Some of them I'd put instead of 68 or 85. No, instead of 86 or 85, I would put them just down to 80 or maybe even 78 or something. Because,
Mm.
like, yeah, I mean, they're still strong, but the rating is definitely not accurate.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
what they're missing a lot of the time is a game plan. Simply. Like any consistent way to win the game, any like game plan, multiple lines of play that are gonna give you a lot of amber, are gonna disrupt your opponent a lot, stuff like that. Which is something that is very hard to find in a Keyforge deck because they are randomly generated, but was more apparent in older decks with high SAS. And I think in these Grim Reminders decks with high SAS, it's very hit or miss whether they have that game plan.
Mm.
And their game plan isn't just play cards that are better than your opponents,
Mm.
which is good, but in high like level Archon play, that's not going to cut it.
Grim Reminders, and especially Grim Reminders Skystoids, has like the most recursion of any house in any set. Period. Um, and I can definitely feel that a surprisingly large amount of the time, you see these crazy turns where people like, oh, Winds of Death or Island of Misfit Tours or whatever the hell, and then they bring 14 cards back, and then because especially since errata has no ectocharge has been errata, often these turns can be like still very powerful, but despite them sometimes playing upwards of 8 cards per turn, the final result can sometimes just feel like 8 amber pips.
Yeah,
Mm.
without
Mm.
without any denial on your opponent, without setting anything up for the next turn, without
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
um
and without a solid ectocharge, stuff like Hallowed Eve Festival and Boo suddenly do a lot less. Because if you're already haunted, it's playing it just stops you being haunted a lot sooner. Um, in many cases. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I do think the Ecto Charger Rider, for that reason, has made Grim Reminders a lot more interesting to play against. Again, there are still some cards that swing a little bit too much, like Winds of Death, which is, again, the reason why cards like the Sania are so relevant in the meta right now. Is also cards like Stealth Mode, stuff that can stop your opponent from Winds of Deathing at a critical time. For example, if your opponent fills up their graveyard and you know they're going to Winds of Death the next turn, but they are close to shuffling in, Stealth Mode can come really clutch, where either your opponent is forced to take a suboptimal turn to not shuffle in, or they are going to shuffle in, and then they're going to lose that opportunity to Winds of Death, which would have won them the game, maybe, if they'd done it at that turn. So the meta is very weird the way it's shaping around Grim Reminders, but I think we'll get more into that later. Let's continue on with our Store Champ stories, and I think I'll start out this time by talking about my Sealed story, since it's the shortest of the three of us. Because I had jokingly said to Patrick that if I go top 2 in both tournaments, then I'm the Danish goat. I'm the best to ever do it in Denmark. and I was kind of feeling like that might be able to happen. Like, I'm the national champion, and like I'm pretty good at Keyforge. And then I show up.
Got to his head.
Exactly, it did get to my head. And then day 2, I show up. I open my 3 decks and I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is pretty fucking shitty. And I sit down and I build an alliance. And I just don't feel like there's, like, as I said before, there's like a game plan. I don't feel like there's a way to win the game there. But there are good cards there, so I'm thinking maybe I'll be able to top 4 if I'm playing this well. And then first game, I get up against Carl, and he just fucking smacks me around. He just takes me and just.
That was it. Almost became shameful for me.
Didn't feel good for me.
Just to beat you mercilessly, and you were sitting there. Can I just make 1 key? And I was like,
no. And then at the end, you let me make 1 key, but that won you the game. So like, oh fuck. It didn't feel good making that 1 key. I was like, well, okay, here we go. That was it. So I got rolled in smoke, and I was like, okay, well, we got it next game. And then I'm up against Patrick on the next game, and I'm like, well, we both have pretty shitty decks as far as like I've heard, and the houses we pick, like we're both pretty shitty decks. And then we start playing, Patrick and I think Patrick will also give his side of the story when he starts telling about how it went, but we just don't make any Amber. Like, we both have a pretty nice amount of board control. We both have a pretty nice amount of Amber control. We keep just stealing the same, like, 2 or 4 Amber back and forth, like, for the first 8 turns. And then one of us, like, gets a key and then starts getting a little bit faster, and I make a fuck ton of Amber with, like, a good Mars turn, and I get my second key, and Patrick gets a second key. And now we're gaming, and then it's time in the round, and Patrick ends up winning, and... It's all it all feels pretty bad. I didn't have a chance at the end of that game anyway, though, so I was gonna lose anyway. What are you up to, Carl?
I just wanted to know, did any of you have memorized the Fallen in the deck?
I could have picked it in one of my pots, but I didn't.
I had
oh yeah, Patrick
you
did.
had.
Yeah, Patrick
Okay,
did have memorized the Fallen. Yeah.
Okay. I have a rant on that card, but we can save it for later.
Yeah, we'll get into it. This is my Alliance deck that I played. I made it here in the Alliance builder. It has a high SAS, but don't let that fool you. It's not very good. I tried to make a pretty balanced deck. I always try to do that whenever I build a Keyforge Alliance deck, which might be my downfall. Because I like decks that can do it all. That's probably why I like Amy's a lot. I also like decks that can combo. That's why I picked this Mars pot. It has a very nice rule of 6 thing with Doctor and Ironix Rebel. And also the Red Death is funny into that. Being able to use that multiple times on turn. Drawing cards. Gaining a lot of Amber from fighting during your opponent's board. I tried to pick as much of the good denial that I had as possible. And then I pulled 2 Equidon pods with Art Project in them, One of them also had Tachyon
You
Manifold.
did two.
I filled two, yeah.
What?
One of them
Okay.
also had Tachyon Manifold, but that was the rest of the pod was a bit worse than this one, so I ended up picking this one for the double gem code vendor and the sandworm and the steel cards. Because I felt like I lacked denial in all my other pods, so I kind of had to.
Yeah.
But the ultimately the deck just didn't come together. I just didn't have anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to how I wanted to win the game. It didn't have like a killer combo. It didn't even have Winds of Death, which is what I felt like a lot of people were just doing that at the Sealed, just playing like a Geistart pot with Boo and Winds of Death and then trying to high roll and win off of that. But I didn't pull any good Geistart pots. So I was left with this thing here, and I could have played better probably too, but I also felt like I just scrubbed out 0-2. That's plain and simple. So I am not the GOAT. I'm not the greatest.
Well, not necessarily. You can still be the GOAT.
I'm in contention, but I can't. I'm not. My argument for being the best Danish player is a little bit weaker right now because of this performance, and because of Carl's performance that we're going to get to later. His argument is a little bit better than it was before this tournament. We'll get there.
Okay,
anyway,
I think I'll go now then.
Yeah, Patrick, how did your Sealed go? You didn't know
so
two this time.
I was very, very excited before I went into, both because I was feeling better. I don't feel like I was sick that day, and also I've just been looking very forward to Sealed Alliance because I have glamorized this format in my head, and I think I undoubtedly love Sealed. Each kind of Sealed, I'm a bit torn about if I prefer normal Sealed or Sealed Alliance, but I at least really love both formats, and especially I think the deck designing for part of Sealed Alliance I think is very interesting, and I think that a lot of players will disagree on what 9 houses to put together into a deck, even very good players, and I think that's interesting. So I sat there and I feel like the options were not as big as I expected. I could definitely have like put together a wrong deck, but I feel like my two unfathomable pots were just not something I was going to do. I saw a Brobnar pot that I knew that I was going to play, so that ruled out my other Brobnar pot. And then I also had like a really good Starlines pot and a Starlines pot that was just meh. So the crossover of the houses were like quickly eliminating each other. So I ended up with like 5 houses that I considered. And I quickly saw a deck that had a lot of powerful cards in it, which was a Brobnar, Starlines, and Mars pot. But the thing is that a lot of the cards would reward you for being haunted or only being powerful if you're haunted, with actual nothing that interacts with it other than a few discard pips, an UFO, and I guess if you want to count Near Future Lens as well. So like those 3 cards would accelerate. Those 3 concepts would accelerate it. I can see here it has exactly 2 discard pips, and then the UFO, and then the Near Future Lens, and that is what will accelerate you in being haunted. So I was kind of scared of picking that deck because I have felt like in my Commander's experience that if your deck does not have cards like not like anything, but like if you don't have cards that accelerate you in becoming haunted, then you will lack power in a lot of turns. So I was scared of picking that deck, and I saw another funny deck with the Brobnar pod that wanted to fight, an Untamed pod with 2 Pestagroves, which is an artifact that comes into when it is in play. It says that each creature enters play enraged, which is a funny, I think, Wolf's Collide card, right? Or is it
it's
Dark
Wolf's Collide,
Tidings?
I'm pretty sure. Oh no, it's
Wolf's
Dark
Collide?
Tidings.
Yeah.
It's Dark Tidings, right?
It's Dark Tidings, yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure. How do you know?
Funny Dark Tidings card. that where it was like, okay, these Brobnar creatures want to fight anyway. I have very few creatures in this Untamed part, and then I looked at the Equidon part, where it had like some small tools to do different things, and also had 2 of the Siphonatarian.
Yeah.
This creature, I can tell, is the 6-power creature that says while you're haunted, it gains taunt and destroyed. If it's not your turn, gain 2 amber. And I felt like that was a pretty sweet combo with 2 Pesagropes. And at first when I got the thought, I couldn't take myself serious because I was like, this is just a meme combo. This is not powerful. But because of my because I was scared of not being haunted in the other deck, I actually ended up going with this. Also because the Untamed card just seemed pretty powerful with Lost in the Wild, Haunting Witch, Waste Not. But it also had like a lot of cards that wanted you to be haunted, like Lost in the Wild, The Circle of Life, Skeletal Murmur, Haunting Witch, and then also Witch of the Eye, Regrowth, and Low Dawn, which all are cards that either want you to specifically be haunted or just benefit you for having cards in the discard pile. Yeah, I had a hard time getting cards into my discard pile, but I ended up playing that deck, and in my first game, we just both played very slowly. We played a few creatures, played a few actions. Nothing much happened of like strong interactions until he played a sandworm with a sandhopper, and I just did not have a way to stop this. I other than like fighting with 3 Brobnar creatures into the sandworm, or shuffling it back into the deck with Lost in the Wild. But I could look at my deck list and I could see I just don't have a destroy effect. I cannot kill this sandworm, and he just like every other turn or more often played Equidon, reaped the sandworm, played it again, and he played an off-house card such that he gained 3 amber, and I that was just really powerful compared to the power level that we were doing before in that game. So I liked that, and then was like, okay, never mind, get the shit out of here. We go into the powerful deck and just hope we get haunted. I then played against Torval, and we just sat there and stared at each other for a lot of time at the beginning. Yeah, the Memorize the Fallen, I think, if I remember correctly, was what
It ended up winning you the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I drew it, and it ended up winning me the game. I'm pretty sure.
Because if you hadn't drawn it, then you couldn't have been able to deny me, and then I would have won. And it was, you had like, you reshuffled and drew like 2 or 3 cards, and then it was there, and you...
I think I was a bit into the deck again. I'm not
maybe
sure.
You were a bit. I think it was because you just reshuffled, so you didn't have any creatures in your own discard pile. So that's also what
that could be. Yeah, okay, that could be.
As far as I remember. But it was...
I told the sword while I drew it because I had the lens down.
Yeah, exactly. I was
so
like crossing
there,
my fingers. Then you drew it.
And then I played against the next player, and we were just doing chill stuff throughout the whole game. His deck has a lot of random creatures that didn't do much. My deck tried to get on board, tried to kill his creatures. He played a few board clears. It was kind of, not a lot of happening compared to what I would expect from Sealed Alliance. Until suddenly he Winds of Death and played Key Abduction, forging a key for free over 2 turns. And that was just what his deck did, and that's fair. But it felt like the decks that were strong in this Grimminder's Alliance format were decks that could forge key at no cost or do other like very, very powerful spiky plays that where if your deck played traditional Keyforge with strong cards, it felt like it didn't have as much as a chance as with if you got like a strong combo in some sense. So yeah, because I'm and that's also maybe my fault for getting for brewing up this deck, because it just is a lot of powerful cards together, which is very much my playstyle. And I maybe should have looked a bit more for combos.
Like
yeah, for specific combos that could win me the game. And also, a last thing, the mass pod that I chose ended up being very good, and I should have just taken that from the start.
Yeah.
But the reason why I didn't do that is because it had free nameless horrors, which is the creature that is a 2-power creature. It has poison, and while you're haunted, it gains elusive and skirmish. Because with my Archon glasses on, it just seemed like a dot, like a creature that wouldn't do anything. But when I played it, it was like surprisingly good in Sealed Alliance. I felt like the poison actually mattered quite a bit, and I felt like if it gained skirmish and elusive, it would actually become quite a powerful creature. So 3 of those was actually not so bad in my deck, and would be able to, for example, deal with the sandworm that I could not deal with in the other game. So yeah, so remember, when you play Sealed, reevaluate the cards, which I think is a very hard thing to do, but try to put away the biases that you have from other Keyforge formats when trying to evaluate something in a new format. Yeah, I think that's it. Carl, you want to go?
All right. Well, I started out by arriving on time.
5 minutes late. 5 minutes late. But
oh yeah, that's true.
Late, but who cares? I bought my decks, and at first I was like a little conflicted between hype and not hype, because all 3 decks had Geistoids, which is very cool, but all 3 decks also had Unfathomable, which often is not very cool. But and then I also drew 2 Equidon pods and 1 Untamed pods. So I very quickly had to accept the fact that I was most likely going to play both Geistoids and Unfathomable, because that gave me the most variation. Because if I wanted to leave out one of the houses, then I had to play my Untamed, and then that house had to be good.
You really did not have a lot of choices.
What?
You really did not have a lot of choices.
No, I didn't.
Compared to houses, that's crazy.
But then I started looking at the fucking houses, and I started looking at the Geistoids, and I realized this Geistoids is kind of boring. Because sure, it would have a lot of good things like Island of Misfit Toys, and in here somewhere, but then it would also have like Touchstone and Triple Reaver and Webster. It's just like, sure, I can play a lot of cards, but then I get a bunch of mediocre creatures, and that didn't seem like my win condition. And then others with just, yeah, the list continues. Then I have one with the synchronizer clocks or whatever, and I'm not really a fan of those, to say the least. So I ended up not playing Geistoids, and then it was, and I was really like sitting with the decision, like, oh my god, this is so fucked up. Like, am I just misinterpreted, or is all these Geistoids just kind of ass? I guess it turned out, that they were kind of ass, I suppose. But what I did found instead was that in one of the Unfathomable houses, there was a Dark Discovery. Ooh. Yeah, and in that same house, there was the Horgri Germitor, which is like a beast, creature, which is a creature that has play. Put a card from your opponent's grave on the bottom of the deck, and it had Beam of Forgetting, and I was like, I think I'm starting to see a trend. And then I checked my Equidon, and then one of the houses, which house is it? It's this one. One of the houses was just kind of badass because it had like Incarnation Pod, which is just an artifact that put things on the bottom of your opponent's deck. And it had Out Negotiate, which put stuff on the opponent's deck. And then it had 2 permanent records, which is just steal 4. And it had a generous offer, which is steal 2 more. And then 2 security details, so like my opponent was never going to forge. And I was like, this seems pretty damn fucking nice. How does my Untamed look? And it was kind of ass. But it did have Nefantasy. And that was where I started going, oh, I might be onto something, because that meant I could get my Dark Discovery. Then I only needed to draw like one of the many actions that allowed me to do the combo. And then if I had Nefantasy down, I could just do the combo all in one turn. And that's pretty much what I did every game. I just
That's so cool.
I just kept putting stuff on the bottom of people's decks, and I remember the first game against Torvald, I was super nervous because he had the board like the entire game, and I had no board clears, and I had very little spot clears, so I was just like putting down creatures, hoping they'd stick for a turn so that I could permanent record, and then what the hell was it called? The one where it dies. Generous Offer. Yes. So I could stop him from forging, and miraculously it worked. And then I just made a key for free at some point during all of it, and then I got to win.
Yeah. And I even unforged your key with Art Project, but
yeah, that's right. You unforged my key.
You still had enough gas in the tank to just win through that. I think your game was the best of my 2 games. Like the game against you was the best of my 2 games, because I did get to. No, I didn't even get to 1 key until the end. No shit, you're right. You just kept stopping me with all your denial, circle speak, and all the. Yeah, I was fucked in this game. I had the board, but I just couldn't make enough amber. Like it was.
And that board was really worrying me, because I felt like, oh shit, if he's gonna take a turn and just start reaping, then I'm not sure that I'm gonna draw into something that allows me to win. So I was like hella nervous. Like the game could go many ways in my mind, but apparently I just won. And
fuck off.
kept on doing
fuck off, man. Jesus Christ. Apparently I'm just that good. What can I say?
That awesome. I mean, I am pretty much the best Danish player.
But you got your free key every single game, and little spoiler, you made it all the way to the finals.
I made it all the way to the finals, and it was super fun, because like just before we did the top 4 finals, we had some issues with ranking, and the ratings computer thing had went down.
Was so shit. I had to do.
We had to dedicate an entire round to just 2 players, so that they could decide who was the 4th player in the top 4. And while they played, I took another match against Christopher, who was already kicked out of the tournament at that point. And he played his deck, and he played Trawler, the capture everything if you're haunted, and a bunch of other nasty capture mechanic, and I just lost.
What?
Bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lost so badly. I got my ass whooped, I tell ya.
What the fuck?
Christopher's deck was interesting,
freaked me out. I'm not even sure I made a key.
Who beat Christopher?
2 people apparently. Not any of us. Patrick, you and I, we lost so bad. Also, this time. But Christopher played double near future lens, soul vial, double trawler, like some real nasty shit, and I think he just like lost to artifact control. The 2 games he lost, which is like a strategy like that also does auto lose to artifact control. Like I believe one of his opponents had like a Tachyon pulse, and they just like die, and then his whole strategy fell apart, because like one Tachyon pulse kills that whole deck. So I'm pretty sure it was something like that, but
What's Tech Impulse?
Destroy every artifact.
Ah, right.
So it's just enough sometimes. Like
I was
sometimes
just
that's all you
nodding over
need.
here. Yeah, yeah. Sounds right. Sounds right. What?
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but you luckily you ducked him and you made it all the way to the finals.
yeah. So I walked into the top four, hella freaked out because officially I was undefeated. Um, but I had just like gotten whooped, and I was just going, oh shit, if my opponent has like a trawler or two and they don't play it at some point where I can magically kill it, then I could be really fucked.
Yeah.
Luckily
Hmm.
no one had a fucking trawler. And so my match between my first match in the top four, it was against our friend Jens, which was hella fun because he had overheard a conversation or something and found out my game plan, which was to put cards on the bottom of his deck and then eventually use Dark Discovery. Um, so he just kept using cards that shuffled his deck, like shuffle something into his deck, or yeah, mostly just shuffle all sorts of stuff into his deck, and it was so annoying. But eventually, I realized, hey, I just played Seed. So I'm gonna be able, as long as I keep Dark Discovery on my hand, I'm gonna be able to make a free key eventually. So I just started using my abilities and put stuff on the bottom of his deck specifically to fuck with him. Make him take less optimal turns. Um, and it was super fun. I could just see him sweat over. Oh no,
Wow.
I have to shuffle. I have to shuffle.
Oh, that's good.
And then finally I drew like my Hypno Beam. And I had already gone through my entire deck at that point
Is that
once. So
called
What's it
Hypno Beam,
called?
right?
It's called Beam
oh,
of
Beam of
Forgetting.
Forgetting, Beam
Yeah.
of Forgetting, Beam of
Mm.
Forgetting. And I had already been through my entire deck once. So he knew for a fact that I had Dark Discovery on my hand. Um, so on my final turn, I had two keys, and then I just played Beam of Forgetting, and then he looked at the board, looked at the fantasy, and he was just like, "I've lost."
Yeah. And it's
Really?
just so funny like that because he does get that
Oh.
cadence when he loses. Oh no, I've lost.
Yeah,
Really?
Oh,
It
that's so
ends like
cool.
this. uh, yeah.
it was
Oh,
it was so
that's so
dramatic
good.
and so full of emotion,
Oh,
and I just couldn't stop laughing. So so yeah, then I beat him, and then I moved on to the top two, and and then I beat that guy too, and then I won.
Yeah, you ended up
who's
winning
the
it
second
all.
place?
I do know. Give me 2 seconds. I do know. I
Carl,
do know.
who did you play in finals?
Stefan. Stefan,
Seven.
you played in the
All right,
finals.
cool. All
Dort.
right, congrats, Carl.
Woo!
You did it.
Thank you.
And this meant that Carl and I both got 2 of the special frame Archon decks, actually. Because
Yep.
the price structure was so that top 2 both got 2 decks, and then the winner also got a set of keys. And then 3 and 4 got 1 deck each, and a set of keys. So we both got these special frame decks, and mine were both pretty bad. What about yours, Carl?
Oh, mine, they were so awful. They were absolutely terrible. Like every time I think Grim Reminders might be too strong. It might ruin the meta. I just look at these two decks and I realize, nah, there's still plenty of shit in this set.
Yeah, and we got drunk some nights ago, and you played the last one you had against one other sealed deck you just had lying around, and I just smacked it around like
Yeah,
you had no recourse. It
you
wasn't
just
very fun for you.
slap me silly.
I did slap you silly there. That was, but I mean, yeah. What did you think about, aside from Patrick scrubbing out in both tournaments? What
Ah!
what did y'all think about the Star Champs?
I liked it. I mean, I was only there the second day, but a part of me misses that there were more players.
Yeah.
Like, it did feel like a bit of a small room.
It was a small room. Like, we were only, I think, 12 or 13 at the Sealed and around 10 at the Archon. So it was very small.
I mean, it was super fun because like it's the same 10 people that you already met 100 times. So it's just a bunch of guys hanging out and getting prizes for it.
Pretty much.
And talking shit and getting lunch together and so on and so on. So like it was a super awesome day, but like it didn't have that big tournament feel to it, just because there were so few people, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's also what I was missing pretty much, is there being, if we had closer to 20 people, I think I would have first of all, I would have probably gone a lot harder in the Archon tournament. Like, I did go hard in the Archon tournament, but also felt like it was a little weird to try hard in the Archon tournament because we were so few people and felt like, I don't know. And then
it almost felt casual.
It almost felt casual. Yeah, of course, there were prizes online, really sweet prizes, and everybody did bring their best decks, so it was a different field from just like normal Mondays when we play. And also some people who don't come on Mondays showed up. So like we were a little bit more of a serious group, but it was compared to how big the game has been in Denmark in the past and how many people have come to like tournaments pretty easily. I was a bit sad that we couldn't even get to 20. I'm gonna be honest. But I mean, it is what it is, and we are gonna. Hopefully, the next event is gonna be bigger. New people are coming to the game right now, actually, which is nice. Like, we do have new people showing up, and there were some people who just couldn't make it this weekend, honestly. And
as much as I like feel sad that the game doesn't feel bigger, at least in Denmark. I still think, hey, we're getting a surprisingly large amount of new players. Like, new faces are showing up, and if there's a lot of old players that could potentially come back. So like. And if like half of them does, then suddenly we'll be a pretty large group, larger than we've ever been, almost.
Yeah.
So like it feels far from hopeless. We just gotta hang in there until the community comes back, I want to say.
Yeah. And I think because I feel like since Corona we were a pretty stale community for some time, but like. A month ago or so, we got three new people that joined and played, and also Asbjørn has gotten 3 of his friends that will join on Monday. Three new guys that are coming because he introduced Keyfrogs to them. They wanted to play. Especially one of them is really hooked, and I feel like if this pattern continues, we could expect maybe a new player a month, which would be amazing.
Which doesn't sound like anything if you're from another TCG, but in Keyfrogs' case, like
a new
especially
player a month.
Like all of us 3, we quit at one point. We didn't play Keyfrogs for over a year, and at that time, the attendance for the weeklies was like 4 people every week.
Yeah, but it still was there, and that's fucking cool.
And now we're on 8 to 10 every week, which I think is like, it's pretty good compared to where it has been. Like we're at an actual respectable player level where we can host a tournament every week, and it does feel like there's something to play for, and not just 4 dudes coming together and just jamming it out.
I mean, it's how many were we when we like began? When Worlds Collide came out, how many were we there?
All the way back Worlds Collide, there were like 20.
Yeah, we would be 20, up to 20.
Yeah, 20, 24. I think the largest day we had was 28 people.
What?
Yeah, that was right around the release of Worlds Collide. 28 people showed up playing Keyforge, which is crazy.
The room at least felt a lot more crowded.
Yeah, definitely.
It was. It was also a smaller room, but it also was a lot more crowded back then. Yeah, so that's us reminiscing. Enough of that. Enough about that. So I think that's also my only real thing about the tournament, as like how it was run, was I wanted there to be more people. I thought I did a pretty good job TOing. I thought everybody did a good job helping out.
Yeah, you were always available.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was there when I wasn't playing my game. I was pretty quick at logging everything. So I think we're doing pretty well. I do want to ask about. No, actually, I think let's talk about a little bit the meta at the tournament, because I've made this thing here on decks of Keyforge. I've plotted in all the decks without anomalies or revenants, and let's take a look at this.
Is this for Archon or Sealed?
This is for Archon. Sealed, I couldn't get the decks.
Okay.
But for Archon, we have a pretty funny expansion distribution. There were more Grim Reminders decks because there were Reverence in some that we couldn't log.
Okay, so there's 2 more GR than it says.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're on that. So we're at like it was a pretty big Grim Reminders majority here.
Yeah.
AOA, that was my deck. World Sky, that was Patrick's deck. Winds of Exchange, that was Jens's and Asbjørn's decks, I believe. That is.
Asbjørn played WoW. Oh, yeah, sorry. Exactly, my bad.
That was so.
Old Master, that was my deck. Oh wait,
no.
Uh-oh.
And I believe, like, I think this is going to be pretty representative of the meta going forward into the larger Vault Tours. I don't know if y'all agree with me here.
I think so. I think that deck Reminders could be around 40% of meta, with WoW being the next biggest. Because Reminders there will just be a lot of people who have gotten a really strong Reminders deck. And I also think that a lot of the Grim Reminders deck are often more fun to play than a lot of other decks. I feel like they're more explosive and more light as well, such that you're are card flinging a bit more than you are maybe in WoW. And I think that can be a fun experience. And I think therefore a lot of people would, if they had to choose about the strong WoW or a strong Grim Reminders deck, I think that a lot of people would choose the strong Grim Reminders deck.
Yeah.
And of course it will always be Coda, AoA, Worlds Collide, and also Mass Mutation. Those will be represented, but probably not a lot more than 10% each.
No, I believe AoA will see more representation only because of Desania, which has a very good matchup into a lot of Grim Reminders.
True.
Yeah.
But that's also Worlds Collide.
Yeah, exactly. So those two sets, I think, which is why I think this is a funnily pretty good graph that's going to be replicated. Like, of course, Coda decks are always going to be good. But I think, like, what are you saying, Kyle?
I want to make a prediction that is that the second they reprint Desania, and I suspect they will reprint Desania probably in the next set.
Damn.
That's my prediction. And the second Desania gets reprinted, though when I say reprint Desania, I am open to the possibility that they just take a card that does exactly what Desania does, put it in another house, and then bump it from rare to uncommon. That wouldn't surprise me either. And then the second that gets reprinted, we're going to see a pretty major drop in Grim Reminders.
I'm not sure about whether or not that's going to happen, but I do think they are going to have to make some kind of more control-y set at one point to keep up with the combo potential that Grim Reminders has, which is, I think, is going to be interesting to see how the meta then shapes around that. I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but I was a little bit scared earlier about the potential dominance of Grim Reminders in the meta.
I'm very scared about the potential dominance, just because, like, Reminders us is fast. It's so fast. You know, you can easily win in 6 turns. Like, put a good deck down, have a decent hand, you can win in 6 turns. And that's even if your opponent is trying to stop you somewhat. So, like, that really worries me, because the second you speed up the game that much, suddenly you're gonna see a lot of past sets that just can't like keep up, because like a lot of decks, like for instance like Amy's, um you want to cycle through the deck like once, so that you have your artifacts in play, and whatever the hell. um and like ideally you in a match you go through your deck once, but if the deck keeps up accelerating in how fast the matches are, then we're gonna see a lot of decks that can't get through their own decks, through themselves,
Yeah,
Yeah,
get through
yeah,
themselves in a
yeah.
match, which means that a lot of decks, and especially old decks, because they don't have the haunting mechanic and the instant recursion I mean, because like Grim Reminders has a bunch of like boos and stuff, and then a bunch of stuff to just bring it back into the archive or onto the hand.
Yeah.
um so a lot of old decks is gonna be suddenly inconsistent, because the matches are now so much faster, and they're gonna be so much more dependent on, ooh, did I get all these great cards in the top half of the deck, and if I didn't, then my game plan falls through, and I'm
Mm,
gonna lose before I get the
mm,
chance.
yeah,
yeah.
And that definitely worries me,
Mm,
yeah. I'm not.
because that'll
yeah.
be that could be the death of a lot of iconic and really fun decks.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be that bad personally. I
No,
do
but
think there is going to be like a sharp drop off in the viability of older decks, and I think that's just how it is with power creep. And I think the thing that worries me most about Grim Reminders, as you said, is the explosiveness of the set. Because most of the times the decks are going to be playing kind of a fair game of Keyforge, just with better cards than their opponent. But some of the decks just have this ability to, if they draw the right cards in the right order, pop off turn one and combo off and win the game. Um, and that's where I'm going to be a little bit worried. But I would like to see, there's a Vault Tour come out this weekend. I'd like to see how that shakes out before I
Yeah.
say anything definitive about like
Mm,
how fucked up Grim Reminders is. Um,
mm,
I also want to say that I think that's a cool insight. The thing with Reminders having its deck more exposable and older sets having it less. And also, I'm personally pretty cool with I know that a lot of people are not to the degree it has been, but I'm pretty cool with power creep and to the degree it has been with Woe and Grim Miners, because I feel like it's good for new players to be able to buy a deck and not have to buy 12 or like 5 displays before they get something they could play at a Vault Tour. I think it's cool that they get something quick that they can play at a Vault Tour and have like just some games. But I think that the very sad thing about it is that the power comes in quickness and explosiveness, and I think that Grim Reminders is the fact that games become, because raising the power bar does not necessarily mean that the games will be shorter. They can also be like more controlly or just more yeah, long, because a lot of the cards will be powerful in the late game. So I feel like it's very sad that the games become shorter, because also the amount of actions you take per game will also decrease, and therefore the skill element will become less important if you take less actions during a game. I feel like games around 10 to 10 to 12 turns are nice, because it doesn't take infinitely long, and also you have a lot to say in the game in what actions you do and take, and not only being determined by your opening hand. And of course, that is not the case in a 6-turn game, but it's more the case than in a 10-turn game. Yeah, I had some other plan, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is the idea that Grim Reminders has taken some very good choices in the fact that they've eliminated a lot of bad cards from the game.
Mm,
Like, I think I always like the idea of playing with jank and making your jank work for you in Keyforge, But as like a casual consumer that wants to get in and get a good Keyforge deck, I totally get the fact that you don't want to see a Dexter in your deck, for example. Like the fact that a bad penny can feel really, really bad to pull. And removing those cards from the game, which they have done in Grim Reminders for us. There are no strictly bad cards in Grim Reminders, as far as I'm aware. Even cards like Nameless Horror are like far and away stronger than any Snufflegator that we've seen earlier, for example. And Snufflegator was like a card where I was like, yeah, I don't like it, but at least it's a skirmish, right? So I feel like they removed that element of the game, which I think is fine. But then also, as you said, Patrick, they've added a level of cards just that don't just do more, but do much more than what previous cards have done.
Yeah.
Cards like Island of Misfit Toys, cards like In Here Somewhere, that just have
that's insane.
One line of text too much printed on them, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, In Here Somewhere does two things. It mills you, sets you up to be haunted. It gives you an amber pip, and it can also have its main effect if you are haunted, which is a very good main effect, and probably should only archive 1 instead of 2 when it gives an amber pip. So I feel like that's like the main crux of the issue with Grim Reminders. And again, I'll wait to see how it shakes up at the World Tour. But I am a little bit concerned that the game just has pushed out so many old decks with Grim Reminders. I recently wrote with Aurora briefly on the NKFL Discord, where Aurora and I both have some of the best decks in the world. I have Amy, she has Bazi, and she mentioned that she hadn't noticed Bazi becoming bad since Grim Reminders, and I have the same thought with Amy's. Amy's isn't bad, but those decks are also in like the 0.0%, 0.01% or 0.1% top decks in the world. Like there are only from before Grim Reminders, there are only thousands, like maybe 20,000-30,000 decks that are of that power level. In the world, I'd say maybe closer to 100,000, but still not a lot compared to the fact that there are 3.5 million decks, and the fact that all the decks below that are a lot worse than your average Grim Reminder deck is going to make it harder for older players to get back into the format, I fear. Which is, maybe the older players are lost forever, and like we only want new players. In that case, it's probably good doing it this way. But I am a bit sad about the thought that there are so many old players seeing this and thinking about quitting or getting into or at least like putting their old decks on the shelves that they have so many plays with, they've gotten so good at, and kind of losing that connection with the deck because it's no longer competitively viable all of a sudden.
That makes a lot of sense. I would also no wait, you talked about but on the point of the fact that Grim Reminders is great for newcomers, I just wanted to add that I think Winds of Exchange did it better.
It did. Sure did.
I want to throw that out there. Like, Winds of Exchange is it's easier to comprehend, much easier to comprehend for new players. You're as a huge part of the set is based around which token you get, which has its pros and its cons, but it means that you don't have to look far in order to get a very good deck. But at the same time, if you want something super competitive, you actually do have to look quite far. And Grim Reminders definitely allows you to draw powerful decks, but it also makes a lot of very powerful decks. So that's just what I wanted to throw out. Like, Winds of Exchange is definitely a set that gets boring with time, and after you have like one or two displays, it quickly feels like there's nothing more there to come for. But I think it did it better.
Yeah, I think I think in that vein, like I think it's because of our playstyles too that all of us don't enjoy Winds of Exchange that much. Like, I know some people who've cracked a lot of Winds of Exchange and really like the set and really feel like there's a lot to explore and discover in the set, but for me personally, the token mechanic just ruins it a little bit for me. Which is not to say that I think the set is bad, because as Carl said, the set was actually really good for a lot of people, and it made a lot of people come into the game and experience this feeling of getting a good deck immediately, while not totally overthrowing the rest of the metagame. And I think the ultimate reason for that is the fact that why Winds of Exchange was good because of the token mechanic, which made a big board very fast. But board clears have been a part of all the older sets. So you didn't suddenly stand without any way to fight against it in the older sets. Like, all those older sets could still interact with the board very easily, since board clears were a part of them, and the board has always been like a main mechanic in Keyforge. But in Grim Reminders, the Haunted mechanic is a lot harder to interact with, because you are missing ways to shuffle cards in from your discard pile, or take advantage of having cards in your discard pile in older sets. What do you want to say, Carl?
Okay, I want to say two things basically. Because one thing, as you touched on, the tokens is one of the greatest things, but also one of the worst things about Winds of Exchange. Because if you have a good token, it means that a lot of your shitty cards are gonna end up being tokenized, and that can give your deck a lot of very needed consistency in order to have a good deck. But at the same time, where it at least in my opinion fails competitively often, is the exact same concept, where suddenly the better the deck gets, the more good cards are gonna become tokenized. So yeah, I that's the dynamic I wanted to point out for one thing. And a second thing I also wanted to mention was also the exact thing you talked about, where Winds of Exchange built a lot on heavy boards, but there have always been board clears, but Grim Reminders are using the Haunted mechanics, and there are very few cards to deal with that. And that's also something I wanted to touch down on, because the idea of having a set that just goes incredibly fast or is incredibly board heavy has never really been scary, because the game has always had cards like Too Much to Protect and board clears, and Dysania has always existed.
Almost. Not in
But
Coda, but yeah.
More or less always existed. It is very difficult for decks to, even when they're better, to just come in and dominate the meta, because you're always gonna face up against counter decks with the necessary artifact control or amber control, or things that punishes you exactly for doing the things you're doing. But Grim Reminders are very, very protected from all of that, because more or less Dysania is like the only card that really feels like it can consistently punish Grim Reminders, and it technically has nothing to do with the Haunted mechanic. And I think that's pretty much my biggest critique of the set, is that it, as pretty much you also said, it walks in with a completely different weapon, and all the old guys, they are basically feel helpless very often. I think that's my point.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Cool.
Tight as hell, bro. Let's get somewhere. Let's
Anyway.
talking about something else.
Yeah, I'm also very excited to see some results from the upcoming World Tour, because I think that it will be clear exactly. It will be clearer exactly
Yeah.
what in Grim Reminders is actually the strong part.
I think it's going to take a few vaults to kind of get the meta settled. It always does.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
mean, possibly there are enough good decks with stealth mode at Desania and enough board clear and just getting in control that it's going to keep Grim Reminders in check, and it's not going to be as big a part of the meta as we thought. But as things are looking right now, it's going to be like half Grim Reminders, and the rest is going to be other
Yeah.
sets. And maybe that's just the way it's going to be with new sets. And as long as it doesn't make the game too fast, I think it might be fine. But
Yeah.
that is pretty much, I think, all of our one worry is the fact that Grim Reminders will make the game too fast, and we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
With that.
In
before we
other
start
words,
spilling Doom.
in other words, please reprint. Too much to protect. Please reprint. Fucking Desania.
Bring back scaling aim control is really important because they haven't.
Bring back scaling amber control. Bring back something that can deal with enemy archives. It doesn't need to be common or uncommon. It can be rare, and it can be very rare, but just bring something back, because a lot of the most important tools for these modern sets are very old at this point.
Very old. Keyfrogs is an old
Right.
game, and we're all old men.
We're
I think
old,
that's
everybody.
That's the takeaway here. We're 63.
When we started streaming, my beard was a lot shorter.
We did look like absolute babies. I don't know if any of you have gone back and
That is
seen
true.
like our first stream. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I have seen it.
And I
It's
look
pretty
like
fun.
a kid. I look like I'm 16 years old.
You do realize that you're going to be looking back at this stream in 5 years, and you're going to be saying the exact
I'm
same
going to be saying
thing.
that's a fucking hottie right there. Holy shit! I wish I was him. Yeah.
All right. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up. I do have
Wrap it
actually one last small tiny thing I want to rant about, maybe. So we were all talking about how we want to have more people coming to our in-person event, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were all talking about how we're looking forward to the EU Vault Tour. The Vault tours
Yay,
gonna
that
be
is happening.
It's happening. It's so much happening because they promised, guys. They promised.
They did.
So it has
Vultures
to
is coming
happen,
to
right?
Europe.
I don't know if any of you watching or listening have seen the poll on the NKFL Discord server, but they are, for the already announced Hamburg or Germany Vault Tour, they are holding a fucking poll to see if enough people will show up so they can actually do it. That's fucking dumb, man. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Are we just not going to get any European vaults because we can't drum up like 70 people to come to them? That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. You're going to kill your European player base. Come on. That's fucking... What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to sit at home and like fucking rot and play in 10-person tournaments my whole life?
Buy the plane ticket and go to America.
I'm supposed to go to Las
fucking
Vegas and get killed by a stripper? Is that what you want me to do? I'm gonna fucking do it, but like, I'm not gonna be happy about it.
Yeah, to me it seems really, really sad if GG has announced specific vultures, and like we've been very patient. We've been waiting for vultures very, very, very long time now.
Yeah, the last one we went to, Patrick, was in 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 5 years ago. A long time ago. And I have been wanting a Vulture ever since, except for in the year gap where I did play, because Keyforge was dead at that time. But Vultures, or like just big events in general, are, in my experience, what players are like craving the most, and also like what you are building up to in your everyday life when you're prepared, getting better for Vultures, and are excited to like enjoy this game with a lot of other people at the same place at the same time. So if we are not getting this one thing that is like the peak of the game, in my opinion, and also I think a lot of others, it will be very, very sad if like there's maybe be like one Vulture in Europe or something. And now we are also over exaggerating a bit, because it is only for the German Vulture that they've made this poll, but like now I just get this feeling of, well, when will this stop? Like, do we have to know that such a big amount will come for every event,
Fucking
or
stupid,
and
man.
also can
Jesus
GG not
Christ.
give the support needed for the shops if they need 60 people to show up and there only are 40 people that show up? Can GG financially support the stores that have not earned enough to like to make it worth it for them?
Yeah, it's all fucking dumb and stupid, and I just want to play cards, man. I don't want to have to take a fucking poll every single time. I don't
I
want
think
to sit here and be like, well, can I book my ticket to Hamburg? I don't fucking know because it hasn't been announced yet, and possibly it's not even happening. Am I just supposed to go to Hamburg, like book my ticket right now, and then if it gets if it gets canceled, I'll just have to take a fucking vacation to Hamburg? I don't want to take a vacation to Hamburg. I want to play cards in Hamburg. I don't want to hang there. Jesus. Fuck, man.
I feel like I think it's very weird, this feeling, because like it's the thing is the game feels like it's great and it could really compete with all of the best card games, but it feels like the the company running it just lacks cash. Like if they that's the feeling I'm getting. Like the game lacks cash.
And people behind it. Like, there's
And
not enough manpower to plan
no,
everything
but
in
like,
a good time.
it feels like people will come if it could be advertised more. It's
No, I mean the company lacks people working for them. They have like
oh yeah,
7
yeah,
people
yeah,
working for
yeah.
them. It's like there's no
Yeah.
people there. They have
Wait, that's
like
7
yeah,
people?
it's like the same 3 people who design the sets are also people who do other things for the company. So they're not even dedicated designers, I believe, the guys who design the sets right now. It's
God
all
damn.
it's all very small, and I feel like small operations can be fine. It's just the fact that the time they put into it also seems to be a little. It doesn't show, at least to the public, like what they
Yep.
put time into right now. And I'm a little I'm interested to see where we end up.
They need to grow their fan base because it feels like they have problems just containing the fan base they already have. And it's a game worthy of having a much larger fan base, so it's a very weird feeling
It's a very weird feeling.
to have about a game.
I love it, but I hate it, but I love it. What can one
But
do?
I hate it.
That's Keyforge.
That's key for
Yeah.
sure. So I think that's pretty much it for our first episode. We got around a lot of topics. I'm gonna have a fun time
Yeah.
cutting this down to
I mean,
being around an
I
hour.
have one last rant if we can squeeze it in.
How long is it, my man?
It's just about Memorize the Fallen.
Okay, I want to hear that.
Okay,
I wanna hear that.
we'll end it off with Kyle's Memorialize
Yeah.
the Fallen rant. Let me just see. Can I put your full screen here? There we can. Okay, so now you're the main man here. We're just sitting in the audience.
Okay, I just wanted to talk about, because like back in the AOA and Coda era, like I was looking at the what was the Brobnar creature would like fight the opponent loses an Amber? What was that?
Rump.
Rump.
No, Crump. Yeah, no, or
Grump.
Grump.
Right? Is it me?
no,
Grok.
you're
I'm sorry,
fucking Grump.
Grok.
Grok, yeah, Grump. What the fuck is that card?
Grump, everybody.
Grump.
It's Grump.
No, it's Grump.
Grump.
That's
everybody.
Grok.
Mhm.
Grok. And I remember I saw that card and I was like, huh, this is something that technically I don't really like, because something I really loved about the game up until that point was the idea that Amber was never lost once it was made. Like you had to either turn it into keys or that was it, because if your opponent captured it or stole it, then it would still be in play somewhere. So any match would always just keep on piling Amber until someone managed to make a key at some point. And Memorize the Fallen goes very much against that. And I'm serious, and I have had a match where like me and my opponent both had memorized the Fallen, and we just never wanted to play it until it was beneficial for us. And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna lose 7, but I'm gonna lose 4. It's worth it." And then we just kept going in circles like that. Until the game just fucking never ended. And I just wanted to explain that I hate the card for that reason and that reason alone.
Yeah,
makes sense.
That's my entire
I
rant.
can agree. It's too explosive. It's too
You agree?
powerful. It's yeah.
I also agree.
It's not that it's too powerful, because there are cards that are better. It's just it slows the game down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It does
opens
too
the possibility,
much.
especially in Grim Reminders. It opens for the possibility that a game could just take forever.
Yeah. I think that it's fine that players can lose Amber permanently, but I think that this is like I think Berserker Slam is very fine. But I definitely think that this is too much and not too much per se.
I also think I very much agree with Carl. Like anything that makes you lose a lot of amber just slows the game down too much, especially since the games are already this long. Like it's 45 minutes, man. And people go to time all the fucking time. Having something like Murrow's the Fallen is just gonna make that happen even more often, because as Carl says, like it's not this like piling action all of a sudden. It's just bam, it's gone, bam, it's gone, bam, it's gone. And if people like have 2 Memorials the Fallens I've seen, like then it's just almost impossible to forge through. Like you have to make 6 amber 3 turns in a row almost, or shuffle in or stuff like that.
If there's sufficient board clears and creatures in both of the decks, or technically just in one of them, then you can end in a vicious cycle where they make a board, get some amber, then they clear up everything, and then they just start over. And I really get that this is a weird complaint to have, because it's very much directed toward Grim Reminders. And we were just complaining about how the game goes too fast in Grim Reminders. So I get that it's a very weird complaint, but fuck that card. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a middle ground you need to reach in time duration. But also, Memorize the Fallen is actually limited to 1 per day.
Oh, it is limited to 1 per day. Okay,
yeah,
so that's fine.
I definitely think that it could very easily feel as if there are more with all the in here somewhere and stuff like that in the Fantasy. So there definitely are decks that can utilize and brutalize this card.
Yeah. Well, I think that was it then. We got all our rants out of the way. We talked about the store championships.
Final wisdom word that we can sign out on.
Yeah, before we go back to your mom's bed here in the background.
All 3 of us.
We're
in separate rooms. We couldn't film near each other. We've gotten very competitive because of your mom.
Yeah, exactly. We all want her.
We need each other.
She's
we just
so beautiful. A woman that we all
So we're all gonna do that. So final words.
Fucking don't play your Desania. Discard that boy or keep him in hand.
My final words are just pick some shit that looks kind of wanky, and it will apparently just win you everything.
That shit wasn't wanky. Shut the fuck up. That's a pretty good deck you made right there.
It was a very good deck, but I very much did not use 3 Geistoid pods.
Yeah.
And the only thing redeeming about my Untamed was Fantasy. Like pretty much all the rest of the Untamed was kind of trash. It kind of was.
Okay, fair. I won't argue with you. Patrick, last words, final words. Come on.
It's fun to make podcasts, and I'm excited for future topics.
Yo, what the
And if you want, we have written a lot of topics down already, and if you want us here to talk about something, you can just write us on the NKFL server, either on I think a Pekno is called, or a PAQ, or Tovalpo.
Only PAQ. Anyways, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye bye.